Chapter 1: Early Life in Swat Valley. Malala Yousafzai's story begins in the picturesque Swat Valley, known as the Switzerland of the East, with its lush green hills and clear rivers. Born on July 12, 1997, in Mingora, the largest city in Swat Valley, Pakistan, Malala's early life was filled with the beauty of her homeland. Her father, Ziauddin Yousafzai, was a poet and an educator who ran a chain of schools, and her mother, Tor Pakai, was a homemaker. Malala grew up in a family that valued education, especially her father, who believed that girls should go to school just like boys. Malala has two younger brothers, Kushal and Atal, with whom she shares a close bond. From a young age, Malala was a bright and curious child. Her father's passion for education and his dedication to teaching left a strong impression on her. In the evenings, the family often gathered to listen to stories and discuss politics. These discussions sparked Malala's interest in the world around her. Her father's belief in freedom and equality, despite living in a region where many did not share these views, especially about girls' education, greatly influenced her. Swat Valley, a place of natural beauty, was also a region of cultural richness. It was a popular tourist destination, famous for its summer festivals. Malala's early years were peaceful, filled with school, friends, and the joys of a close-knit community. However, this peace was not to last. The rise of the Taliban in Swat Valley brought significant changes to the lives of its residents, especially in the area of education. Girls' schools were being closed, and the freedom Malala's family cherished was under threat. Despite these challenges, Malala's love for learning never wavered. Encouraged by her father, she became an avid reader. Books opened new worlds to her and fueled her dreams of a future where every girl could go to school. Her father's school became a sanctuary for Malala and many other children. In her father's school, Malala found not just education but also a platform to voice her thoughts and dreams. As Malala grew older, she became more aware of the injustices around her. She saw that not all girls had the same opportunities as her. This realization was distressing, but it also ignited a spark in young Malala. She began to dream of a world where every girl, regardless of where they were born, could receive an education. It was this dream that would set her on a remarkable path, turning her into a symbol of courage and a voice for the voiceless. But this path was not without its dangers, as Malala would soon find out. The peaceful Swat Valley of her early childhood was transforming, and so was Malala, from a young girl passionate about learning to an advocate for education and equality. Her journey was just beginning, a journey that would take her far beyond the Swat Valley and onto the world stage. Malala Yousafzai's passion for education was not just a personal choice, but a legacy passed down from her father, Ziauddin. He was not only her father but also her mentor and inspiration. Ziauddin Yousafzai, an educator and a passionate advocate for education, especially for girls, ran a school in the Swat Valley. He believed that every child, boy or girl, deserved to learn and dream. In a place where many girls were denied education, Ziauddin's views were both brave and unusual. His belief in equality and learning shaped Malala's early life and thoughts. In Malala's home, books and learning were a part of everyday life. Her father often shared stories of great leaders and thinkers, sparking Malala's interest in the world outside Swat Valley. She listened to her father's discussions with other educators and poets, absorbing ideas about freedom, equality, and the power of education. These conversations laid the foundation for her future as an activist. Malala saw her father standing up for what he believed in, even when others disagreed. This taught her the importance of having a voice and using it for good. Malala's mother, Tor Pakai, though not formally educated, also supported her daughter's education. She encouraged Malala to pursue her dreams, showing her the strength and resilience of women. In a society where many believed educating girls was unnecessary, Malala's parents were united in their mission to provide her with the best education possible. They wanted her to have the opportunities that many girls in Pakistan were denied. School for Malala was not just about learning subjects like math and science. It was about building a vision for a better future. Her father's school was a place where girls and boys studied together, a rare sight in Swat Valley at the time. Malala thrived in this environment, her curiosity and intelligence shining through. She was an eager student, always ready to learn and participate. Her teachers recognized her potential and encouraged her to speak out and share her ideas. As Malala grew, she became more aware of the challenges facing girls in her country. She saw friends who were unable to go to school and began to understand the deep inequalities that existed. These experiences deeply affected her. She started to question why some children had the chance to learn while others did not. Her father's influence played a key role in this period of her life. He encouraged her to ask questions and seek answers. He taught her that one person's voice could make a difference. Malala's early education and the influence of her family, especially her father, shaped her into a young leader. Her home was a place of learning, questioning, and dreaming. It was these early experiences that prepared Malala for the extraordinary path she would later take. As a young girl in the Swat Valley, she began to dream of a world where every girl could go to school. This dream, nurtured by her family and her early education, would soon propel her onto the global stage, making her a voice for millions of girls who were fighting for their right to learn. Chapter 2. Growing up in a changing world. Malala Yousafzai's childhood in the Swat Valley, a stunning region in Pakistan, was surrounded by breathtaking landscapes and rich cultural traditions. Swat Valley, often called the Switzerland of the East, is known for its remarkable beauty. It has lush green valleys, tall mountains, and clear, flowing rivers. The natural scenery of Swat Valley is not just beautiful to look at, but it also tells a story of the land and its people. Malala grew up in Mingora, the biggest city in Swat Valley, where she experienced the beauty of nature every day. The changing seasons brought new colors and experiences. Spring was a time of colorful flowers and green fields, while winter covered the mountains in snow. The people of Swat Valley, like the land, are full of life and traditions. The valley is known for its cultural festivals, traditional dances, and music. Local craftsmen create beautiful handmade items, and the markets are full of vibrant colors and sounds. These markets are where people come to meet, talk, and trade. They are lively places, full of stories and laughter. Malala's early life in Swat Valley was enriched by these cultural experiences. The festivals were especially exciting for her. People dressed in colorful traditional clothes, music filled the air, and there were dances and celebrations. Swat Valley is also a place with a rich history. It was once a part of the ancient Silk Road, a network of trade routes connecting east and west. The valley has old Buddhist relics and was known for its Buddhist heritage before it became a predominantly Muslim area. These historical sites in Swat Valley tell stories of the past and are a source of pride for the local people. Malala grew up listening to stories about the history of her land, which gave her a sense of connection to the past. However, life in Swat Valley was not just about its beauty and culture. The valley also faced challenges. In Malala's childhood, Swat was a peaceful place, but it was beginning to change. The Taliban, an extremist group, started to gain power in the area. They wanted to control how people lived, especially girls and women. This change was a dark shadow over the beautiful Swat Valley. The Taliban did not like the music, dancing, and the freedom that the people of Swat enjoyed. They wanted to stop girls from going to school. Despite these growing challenges, the beauty and culture of Swat Valley remained a strong part of Malala's early life. Her experiences in this beautiful place, filled with traditions and stories, helped shape her into the person she would become. The natural beauty and the rich cultural heritage of Swat Valley were not just a backdrop for Malala's childhood, but were also a source of inspiration and strength. They taught her to love her land and its people and to stand up for what she believed in. Malala's journey began in this valley of beauty and challenges, a place that would always be a part of her story. In Malala Yousafzai's early years, the Swat Valley, known for its stunning natural beauty, began to experience a significant change. This change was not in the mountains or rivers, but in the lives of its people. It was the rise of the Taliban, a group that wanted to control how people lived, especially their education and freedom. The Taliban are an extremist group that follow a strict version of Islamic law. Their rise in Swat Valley was a dark and challenging time for its residents, including Malala and her family. The Taliban started to gain power in Swat around 2007. They used radio broadcasts to spread their ideas. The voice of Mullah Fazlullah, known as Radio Mullah, became common at every home. His broadcasts talked about what he thought was right and wrong, according to his interpretation of Islamic law. Slowly, the Taliban began to enforce their rules. They said music and movies were bad. They didn't like women going out without a man from their family. Most importantly, they were against girls going to school. These changes were hard for the people of Swat, who were used to a more free way of life. For Malala, who loved going to school and learning, the idea of not being able to study was scary. Her father's school was a place where both girls and boys could learn together, but the Taliban did not like this. They started to close down schools for girls. They said girls should stay at home. This was a big problem because Malala and her father believed that education was important for everyone. The Taliban's control over Swat Valley grew stronger. They used fear and violence to enforce their rules. People who didn't follow their rules faced dangerous consequences. The beautiful Swat Valley, once a place of festivals and joy, became a place of fear and silence. Music stopped playing in the streets, and girls' schools were closed one after another. The changes were fast and frightening. People were scared to speak out against the Taliban. Malala's family was worried, but her father was determined to keep his school open. He believed that every child, girl or boy, had the right to learn. Malala saw her beloved Swat Valley changing. The place where she played, learned, and dreamed was no longer safe. The rise of the Taliban in her hometown was a turning point in her life. It was during this time that Malala's voice began to emerge. She started to realize that she had to speak up for her right to go to school and for the rights of other girls in Swat Valley. The challenges she faced in these years were not just about her education, but about fighting for what she believed was right. This was the beginning of Malala's journey as an activist. A young girl from a beautiful valley, standing up against a powerful force to fight for education and freedom. It was a journey that would take her far beyond the mountains of Swat and onto the world stage. Chapter 3. The Right to Learn. Malala Yousafzai's first days at school were filled with excitement and curiosity. For her, going to school was like stepping into a world of new possibilities. Her father, Ziauddin, ran the school, and it was a special place for Malala. From the moment she started school, she loved learning. The classrooms were simple, with desks and a blackboard, but to Malala, they were magical. She was eager to read books, write, and learn about the world. Her favorite subjects were English and history. She loved hearing stories about people and places from the past. Malala's first days at school were not just about learning subjects. It was also where she learned about friendship and sharing ideas. She made friends quickly and enjoyed talking and playing with them during breaks. Her teachers noticed her intelligence and eagerness to learn. They encouraged her to ask questions and participate in class. This made Malala very happy. She felt that school was a place where she could be herself and grow. In school, Malala also learned about the struggles and achievements of great leaders. These stories inspired her. She began to dream of making a difference in the world, just like the people she read about in her books. Her father often told her that she could achieve anything she set her mind to. This encouragement was important to Malala. She believed that with hard work and education, she could reach her goals. However, going to school was not the same for every girl in Swat Valley. Many girls did not have the chance to learn because their families thought it was not important for girls. This made Malala sad. She thought about her classmates who could not come to school and missed out on learning. Malala's school was a happy place for her, but she knew that not everyone had the same opportunities. Her early days at school were not just about studying. They were about understanding the world around her. Malala saw how education could change a person's life. She believed that all children, girls and boys, should have the chance to go to school. This belief became a big part of Malala's life. Her father's school was more than a place to learn. It was a place that showed her the power of education. These experiences in her early school days laid the foundation for Malala's future. They shaped her into a young girl who valued learning and wanted to make a difference. Malala's love for school and her belief in education for all children would soon lead her on an extraordinary path. A path where she would use her voice to fight for the right to learn, not just for herself, but for children everywhere. Her journey as an education activist was just beginning, and it all started in the classrooms of her father's school. In the Swat Valley, where Malala Yousafzai grew up, girls faced many challenges in getting an education. For many families, educating a girl was not a priority. They believed that a girl's place was at home, helping with household chores and preparing for marriage, not in a classroom learning. This mindset was a big barrier for girls who dreamed of going to school. Even when families wanted to educate their daughters, there were other obstacles. Many schools were far away, and there was no safe transportation. Girls often had to walk long distances to reach school, which worried their parents. Safety was a big concern, especially with the rise of the Taliban, who were against girls' education. The Taliban's influence in Swat Valley became a major problem for girls' education. They started to control what could be taught in schools and who could attend. The Taliban believed that girls should not get an education beyond a very basic level. They threatened and attacked schools that taught girls. They even destroyed school buildings to stop girls from learning. This created a climate of fear. Parents were scared to send their daughters to school, and many girls' schools were closed. For Malala, who loved going to school, this was heartbreaking. She saw her friends dropping out of school. The joy and freedom that came with learning were being taken away. Malala's school, run by her father, was a rare place where girls could still learn. But even here there was fear. Every day at school, Malala and her classmates wondered if today would be the last day they could come to learn. In addition to the threats from the Taliban, there were other issues. Some schools lacked basic facilities like toilets and clean water. This made it difficult for girls to attend school, especially as they got older. The quality of education in some schools was also poor. There were not enough books or trained teachers. All these factors made it hard for girls to get a good education. Despite these challenges, Malala and her father continued to advocate for girls' education. They believed that education was a right for everyone, including girls. Malala saw education as a way to change her life and the lives of other girls in Swat Valley. She knew that with education, girls could achieve their dreams and have more opportunities in life. The challenges for girls' education in Swat Valley were not just a local issue. It was a problem faced by girls in many parts of the world. Malala's story is one of courage in the face of these challenges. It shows how one girl's love for learning and determination to study could inspire a global movement. Malala's fight for her right to go to school would take her on a journey beyond Swat Valley, making her a voice for girls' education around the world. Her story is a powerful reminder of the importance of education for all, regardless of where they are born or what challenges they face. Chapter 4. A Voice for Girls. Malala Yousafzai's journey as an activist for girls' education began with her first public speech. She was only 11 years old when she stood up to speak in Peshawar, Pakistan. The speech was titled, "How Dare the Taliban Take Away My Basic Right to Education?" It was a bold move for a young girl, especially in a place where speaking out could be dangerous. Malala's father, Ziauddin, who had always encouraged her to learn and express her opinions, was by her side. He had taught her the value of having a voice and using it for good. Malala's speech was about the right of every girl to go to school. She spoke about her love for learning and how the Taliban were stopping girls like her from getting an education. In her speech, Malala talked about seeing her classmates drop out of school because of the Taliban. She spoke about the fear that filled their lives, but also about the hope that education could bring. Her words were powerful and heartfelt. She asked the audience, "Why is it that giving guns is so easy, but giving books is so hard? Why is it that making tanks is so easy, but building schools is so hard?" These questions made people think about the situation in Swat Valley and the importance of education. Malala's speech was not just heard by the people in the room. It was recorded and shared. People all over Pakistan and later around the world heard her message. For many, it was the first time they heard a young girl from Swat Valley speak about these issues. Malala's courage to speak out at such a young age surprised and inspired many people. She became a symbol of resistance against the Taliban's efforts to deny girls an education. Her speech was just the beginning. It marked the start of her activism. After that day, Malala continued to speak out for girls' education. She gave interviews and wrote about her experiences. Her father supported her every step of the way. He knew the risks, but he also knew the importance of what Malala was doing. Together, they worked to make sure that the world heard about the challenges girls were facing in getting an education. Malala's first speech was a turning point in her life. It showed her that she could make a difference. Her words had the power to bring attention to the struggles of girls in Swat Valley and beyond. This experience gave her the confidence to keep fighting for her rights and the rights of other girls. Malala's journey as an activist had just begun, but her first speech laid the foundation for her future work. It was a bold statement from a young girl that she would not be silent. She would fight for what she believed in, no matter how difficult it might be. After Malala Yousafzai's first public speech advocating for girls' education, the response from her local community in Swat Valley was mixed. Some people were amazed by her courage and spoke highly of her. They saw Malala as a young hero standing up for a very important cause. Her father, Ziauddin, was well respected in the community as a teacher and activist, and many shared his views on the importance of education. These supporters praised Malala for her bravery and her ability to speak so powerfully at such a young age. They believed in her message and supported her fight for education for all girls. However, not everyone in the community was supportive. Some people thought Malala was too young to be speaking about such issues. They believed it was dangerous for a girl to be so outspoken, especially about matters that challenged the Taliban. The Taliban were very powerful in Swat Valley, and speaking against them could lead to serious consequences. There were fears for Malala's safety and for her family. Some community members thought it was best to stay quiet and not cause trouble. In addition to these differing views, there were also people who were indifferent. They heard Malala's speech and her message, but did not think much would change. Life in Swat Valley was difficult, especially with the Taliban's growing influence. Many people were focused on their daily struggles and survival. The idea of fighting for girls' education seemed like a distant dream in the midst of their challenges. Despite these mixed reactions, Malala continued her activism. She started writing a blog for the BBC under a pseudonym, sharing her experiences of life under the Taliban. This blog gained international attention and brought more recognition to her cause. People outside of Swat Valley started to learn about the situation there and about Malala's fight for education. Within her community, Malala's continued activism and growing international recognition began to change some people's minds. They saw her not just as a young girl, but as a strong voice for change. Her courage inspired other girls and families. Some parents who were hesitant about educating their daughters began to rethink their decisions. Malala's message was clear and powerful. Education is a right for everyone, regardless of gender. Malala's journey was becoming more than just a personal fight. It was a symbol of hope and resistance for many in her community and beyond. Her local recognition was the beginning of a much larger movement. She was not just a girl from Swat Valley anymore. She was becoming a global voice for girls' education. Her early activism, starting with her speech and her blog, set the stage for her future work as an international advocate for education. Her story was inspiring people around the world to think about the importance of education for girls and the challenges they face in getting it. Chapter 5. Life under the Taliban. Life in the Swat Valley dramatically changed when the Taliban gained control. The Taliban, a strict militant group, enforced their rules on everyone. The once vibrant and lively Swat Valley, known for its natural beauty and rich culture, became a place of fear and silence. Music, which was a big part of the local culture, was banned. The streets, which used to be filled with the sounds of laughter and music, became quiet. Shops selling CDs and movies were closed or destroyed. Even playing music at weddings, a long-standing tradition, was stopped. The Taliban also changed how women and girls lived in Swat Valley. They had to cover themselves completely when they went outside. The Taliban believed that women should not work or go to places where men were. Women's freedom was greatly restricted. They could only go out with a male family member. For girls like Malala, these rules were hard to accept. They limited her freedom and the freedom of all girls and women in the valley. Schools, especially those for girls, faced the biggest changes. The Taliban did not believe that girls should be educated. They forced many schools to close. Some schools were even bombed or burned down. Girls who wanted to learn had fewer and fewer opportunities. Teachers were scared to teach, and parents were scared to send their daughters to school. Education, which was once a source of pride and hope in Swat Valley, became a target of the Taliban's violence. The Taliban also controlled what could be taught in schools. They did not want subjects that they thought went against their beliefs. Subjects like English and science were seen as too Western or modern. The Taliban wanted to control what people thought and believed. They used fear to enforce their rules. Anyone who did not follow their rules faced harsh punishments. Life under the Taliban was full of fear. People were scared to speak out against them. The Taliban had guns and were violent. They punished people who they thought were not following their rules. This created a climate of fear in Swat Valley. People were afraid to do anything that might make the Taliban angry. For Malala and her family, life under the Taliban was especially difficult. Her father ran a school that was against the Taliban's rules. They lived in constant fear of being attacked. But despite the danger, They believed in the importance of education. They kept the school open as long as they could. Malala's father, Ziauddin, encouraged her to keep learning and to speak out for her right to education. Life under the Taliban in Swat Valley was a time of darkness and fear. The changes they brought affected everyone. They took away the freedom and joy that the people of Swat Valley once had. For Malala, these changes were a turning point. They made her even more determined to fight for her right to education and to speak out against the Taliban. Her experiences during this time would shape her future as a global advocate for girls' education. In the midst of the Taliban's strict rule in Swat Valley, stories of resistance and hope began to emerge, showing the courage of its people. Despite the danger, there were individuals and families who stood against the Taliban's oppressive rules. One of these brave voices was Malala Yousafzai, a young girl who became a symbol of resistance. Malala, supported by her father Ziauddin, refused to be silenced. She continued to go to school, even when it was dangerous. Her father's school remained open for as long as possible, serving as a beacon of hope in a time of darkness. Malala's bravery was not the only story of resistance. There were other girls and families who also fought for their right to education. Secret schools began to operate in private homes. Teachers who were committed to education risked their lives to teach. They held classes in hidden places, away from the eyes of the Taliban. These secret schools were small and lacked resources, but they were full of determination and hope. Girls who attended these schools showed incredible courage. They knew the risks, but they still chose to learn. Amid the fear and oppression, the people of Swat Valley also found ways to keep their culture alive. In private homes, people quietly listened to music and shared stories. These small acts of defiance were important. They helped keep the spirit of the Swat Valley alive. Music and stories were a way for people to remember their identity and culture, something the Taliban could not take away. There were also individuals who spoke out against the Taliban, despite the risks. Journalists and activists reported on what was happening in Swat Valley. They shared the stories of the people, especially the stories of girls who were denied education. These reports brought international attention to the situation in Swat Valley. The world began to learn about the struggles of its people and the bravery of girls like Malala. In these difficult times, the people of Swat Valley also found hope in small victories. When a girl learned to read, when a secret school ran another day, when someone spoke out against the Taliban, these were moments of triumph. They showed that even in the darkest times, people could resist and hope for a better future. The resistance in Swat Valley was not just about fighting against the Taliban. It was about fighting for something bigger, for freedom, education, and the right to live a life with dignity. People like Malala and her father, the teachers who ran secret schools, and the families who supported education were all part of this resistance. They showed that even in the face of great danger, hope and courage could survive. Their stories are a testament to the human spirit's ability to resist oppression and hold on to hope. These acts of bravery and resilience in Swat Valley would inspire people around the world and become a powerful part of Malala's journey as an advocate for education. Chapter 6. Writing for Freedom. In the midst of the difficulties and dangers under the Taliban's rule in Swat Valley, Malala Yousafzai began an extraordinary project. At the age of 11, she started writing an anonymous blog for the BBC. This blog was a chance for Malala to share her experiences and thoughts about life under the Taliban, especially about how it affected education for girls. The blog was titled Diary of a Pakistani Schoolgirl. It was a bold and risky step, but Malala was determined to make the world aware of what was happening in her home. Writing the blog was not easy. Malala used the name Gulmakai to hide her identity. This was important for her safety. The Taliban were against girls getting an education and speaking out. If they found out that Malala was writing about their actions, it would be very dangerous for her and her family. Despite these risks, Malala wrote about her daily life, her fears, her dreams, and her determination to keep learning. In her blog, Malala described the challenges of going to school under the Taliban. She wrote about the fear she felt each day as she walked to school, not knowing if she would return home safely. She talked about the empty classrooms, as many girls had stopped coming to school. Malala also wrote about the beauty of Swat Valley and how it had changed under the Taliban. Her words painted a picture of a world where the simple act of going to school had become an act of bravery. Malala's blog reached people all over the world. It was translated into English and posted on the BBC website. Readers were moved by the courage of a young girl living in such difficult circumstances. Her blog gave a human face to the stories they heard in the news about the Taliban. People began to understand the impact of the Taliban's rule on the daily lives of ordinary people, especially girls like Malala. Through her blog, Malala became a voice for the voiceless. She spoke for all the girls in Swat Valley who were denied an education and lived in fear. Her words were powerful, and they resonated with people around the world. The blog was not just a diary. It was a call for freedom and the right to education. Malala's work on the BBC blog was the start of her journey as an international advocate for education. It showed her strength and determination to fight for what she believed in. The blog also raised awareness about the situation in Swat Valley and the struggles faced by its people under the Taliban. Malala's writing for freedom, under the pseudonym Gul Makai, was a brave act of resistance. It was a young girl's way of fighting back with words and ideas, showing that even in the darkest times, the power of voice and education could shine a light of hope. When Malala Yousafzai shared her daily life under the Taliban through her anonymous BBC blog, it had a profound impact. Her story, told from the perspective of a young girl living in Swat Valley, brought to light the harsh realities faced by many under Taliban rule. Malala's blog entries described not only the challenges and fears of going to school, but also the broader impact of the Taliban's control on everyday life. This personal account was powerful because it offered a direct human perspective that was often missing in regular news reports. The impact of Malala's blog was significant both locally and internationally. Locally, her writings resonated with many in Swat Valley who were experiencing the same fears and challenges. For other girls and their families, Malala's words were a source of comfort and solidarity. They realized they were not alone in their struggle. Her bravery in speaking out inspired others to discuss their own experiences and feelings more openly, even in a climate of fear. Internationally, Malala's blog drew attention to the plight of girls in Swat Valley and the broader issue of education under oppressive regimes. Readers from around the world were moved by the courage and eloquence of a young girl who, despite the danger, was determined to speak out for her right to education. It helped people understand the severity of the situation in Swat Valley, which was not just about conflict, but also about the denial of basic human rights, especially for girls and women. Her blog also sparked a global conversation about the importance of education for girls. People began to see education not just as a basic right, but as a crucial element in the fight against oppression and poverty. Malala's story highlighted how denying education to girls could have a negative impact on entire communities and societies. This led to increased support for initiatives aimed at promoting education for girls in regions affected by conflict and oppression. Moreover, Malala's writings brought attention to the power of the individual voice. Her blog showed that one person's story could raise awareness and inspire action. It demonstrated the power of the Internet and modern communication in giving a platform to those who would otherwise not be heard. In sharing her story, Malala Yousafzai became more than a girl from Swat Valley. She became an emblem of resilience and advocacy for girls' education worldwide. Her blog was the beginning of a larger journey that would take her to international platforms and eventually make her a leading voice in the fight for education for all. The impact of her sharing her daily life under the Taliban was profound, setting the stage for her future role as an activist and symbol of hope and resistance for many around the globe. Chapter 7. A Growing Voice. Malala Yousafzai's decision to reveal her identity as the BBC blogger was a moment of great courage and significance. For months, she had been writing under the pseudonym Gul Mackay, sharing her experiences of living under the Taliban's rule in Swat Valley. Her blog had gained attention worldwide, but her true identity remained a secret, revealing who she was meant taking a big risk. The Taliban were against girls' education and were known for their violent actions against those who opposed them. By coming forward, Malala was putting herself and her family in potential danger, but she was determined to stand up for her beliefs. The decision to reveal her identity was not made lightly. Malala and her family understood the risks involved. Her father, Ziauddin Yousafzai, was already known for his outspoken views on education, which made the family a target. However, Malala believed that by revealing her identity, her voice would become even stronger. She wanted the world to know that a young girl from Swat Valley was standing up for the right to education. Malala's bravery in revealing her identity showed her commitment to her cause. When Malala's identity as the BBC blogger was revealed, the reaction was both supportive and concerned. People around the world admired her bravery. They were impressed by the strength and determination of such a young girl. Malala became a symbol of resistance against the Taliban's oppression and an advocate for girls' education. Her story inspired many, showing that even in the face of danger, it was possible to stand up for what one believes in. However, there was also concern for Malala's safety. The Taliban were known for their ruthless tactics, and openly opposing them was dangerous. Malala's family and supporters feared for her well-being. Despite these fears, Malala remained resolute. She continued to attend school and speak out for girls' education. Her resolve in the face of such threats was remarkable. Revealing her identity brought Malala into the spotlight. She started to receive more attention from the media. Interviews and appearances on television followed, giving her a larger platform to share her message. This increased visibility brought more support for her cause, but also more risks. Malala's decision to reveal her identity as the BBC blogger was a turning point in her life. It marked the transition from being an anonymous voice to becoming a public figure in the global fight for education. Her courage in taking this step furthered her journey as an advocate for girls' education. It showed the world the power of a young girl's voice against oppression and her unwavering commitment to her right to learn. This bold move was not just about Malala. It was about standing up for millions of girls around the world who were denied an education. Her growing voice was becoming a beacon of hope and change. After Malala Yousafzai revealed her identity as the BBC blogger, her voice began to resonate not just in Swat Valley, but across Pakistan and eventually around the world. This young girl, who had bravely spoken out against the Taliban's suppression of girls' education, was now gaining national and international recognition. Malala's story, which started as a personal narrative about life under the Taliban, had grown into a powerful symbol of the fight for education rights. In Pakistan, Malala's courage and eloquence caught the attention of the media and the public. She was invited to speak at various events and interviewed by local journalists. Her message was clear and compelling. Education is a fundamental right for every child, regardless of gender. Malala's advocacy for girls' education challenged traditional views and sparked conversations in Pakistani society about the importance of educating girls. She became a source of pride for many in Pakistan, especially those who believed in equality and education for all. Internationally, Malala's impact was even more profound. Her story was covered by major global news outlets. People around the world were moved by the bravery of a young girl standing up against such a powerful and oppressive force as the Taliban. Malala's articulate and passionate pleas for educational rights resonated with a global audience. She became a symbol of hope and resistance, an example of how one voice can make a difference in the world. Organizations and leaders from different countries took notice of Malala's work. She received invitations to speak at international platforms, including the United Nations. Her message went beyond Swat Valley and Pakistan, addressing the global issue of educational inequality. Malala's story was not just about her struggle. It represented the struggle of millions of girls around the world who were denied the right to education. Awards and recognitions followed, highlighting her contributions to the cause of education. Malala was honored with prestigious international awards for her activism. Each award brought more attention to her cause and helped spread her message even further. These accolades were not just for Malala as an individual. They symbolized the importance of the fight for girls' education globally. Malala's growing voice on the national and international stage was a beacon of hope for many. Her journey inspired other young people to speak out for their rights and believe in the power of their voices. She showed that age and background do not limit the ability to make a significant impact. The recognition Malala received was not only a tribute to her bravery and commitment, but also a call to action for the world. It highlighted the urgent need to address educational inequality and empower girls through education. Malala's transition from a young blogger in Swat Valley to an international symbol of educational advocacy was remarkable. Her story is a testament to the power of courage and determination in the face of adversity, and her growing voice continues to inspire and bring change in the fight for education for all. Chapter 8. The Attack. Marked by a tragic and pivotal event. The day she was shot by the Taliban. This day, October 9, 2012, began like any other school day for Malala. She woke up early, got ready, and left for school. Malala loved school. It was a place where she felt free and happy, a place where she could learn and dream about her future. The school day passed as usual with lessons and time with friends. As the school day ended, Malala and her friends boarded their school bus, ready to go home. They were chatting and laughing, unaware of the danger that was about to unfold. The school bus was making its way through the crowded streets of Mingora, the largest city in the Swat Valley. Suddenly, the bus was stopped by two young men. The men asked, "Which one of you is Malala?" The girls on the bus were scared and confused. Before anyone could fully understand what was happening, one of the men raised a gun and fired 3 shots. One of the bullets hit Malala on the left side of her head. The bus erupted into chaos. The girls were screaming and crying. The driver sped away to get help. Malala, gravely injured, was rushed to a local hospital. The news of the attack spread quickly. People were shocked and horrified that someone would try to kill a young girl simply because she wanted to go to school and spoke out for her rights. The doctors at the local hospital did what they could to save Malala, but her injuries were severe. She needed specialized care, so she was moved to a military hospital in Peshawar. The whole country was watching and praying for Malala. The attack on her was not just an attack on one girl. It was an attack on the right to education and freedom. Internationally, the news of the attack on Malala caused a wave of anger and sympathy. People around the world were appalled that a young girl advocating for education had been targeted in such a brutal way. The attack brought even more attention to the cause Malala had been fighting for. It highlighted the dangerous conditions under which girls pursue education in many parts of the world. The day of the attack on Malala was a dark day in the history of the fight for education rights. It showed the extreme lengths to which opponents of girls' education would go. However, this tragic event also strengthened the resolve of many to continue the fight for the right to education for all children, regardless of gender. Malala's bravery and her commitment to education, even in the face of such danger, inspired people worldwide. The day she was shot would be remembered not just as a day of violence and tragedy, but also as a turning point in the global movement for education and women's rights. Gripping tale of her fight for life after the attack. After Malala was shot, she was in a critical condition. The bullet had hit her on the left side of her head and traveled to her shoulder. This caused serious injuries, and Malala's life hung in the balance. The first battle to save her life began in a local hospital in Swat Valley. The doctors there quickly realized that Malala needed more advanced medical care than they could provide. She was then transferred to a military hospital in Peshawar, where she received immediate treatment. Malala's condition was grave. The doctors in Peshawar performed a life-saving surgery. They removed the bullet and reduced the swelling in her brain. The whole of Pakistan, and soon the world, was watching and waiting for news about her condition. People everywhere were praying for her recovery. Malala's fight for life had become a symbol of the fight for the right to education and against extremism. After the surgery in Peshawar, Malala was still in critical condition. She needed specialized care, so the decision was made to move her to the United Kingdom. In the UK, Malala was taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, which had expertise in treating military injuries. Here, Malala received top-notch medical care. The team of doctors and nurses worked tirelessly to save her life. They performed multiple surgeries to repair the damage caused by the bullet. Malala's family faced a tough time. Her father, mother, and 2 brothers were in Pakistan when the attack happened. They were worried and desperate to be with Malala. After a few days, they were able to join her in the UK. The reunion was emotional. Malala, who was still recovering, was relieved to see her family. The fight for Malala's life was not just a medical battle. It was also a fight of spirit and will. Malala showed incredible strength and determination. Even in her weakest moments, her will to survive and continue her fight for education was evident. The world rallied around Malala. Messages of support and prayers poured in from all corners of the globe. People were inspired by her bravery and resilience. The journey to recovery was long and hard. Malala had to relearn how to speak and walk. But she was not alone in this fight. She had the support of her family, the medical team, and millions of well-wishers worldwide. Malala's recovery was a testament to her strength and the skill and dedication of the medical staff who cared for her. Malala's fight for life after the attack was a crucial chapter in her story. It was a fight that went beyond one girl. It was a fight for the right to education, for freedom, and against violence. Malala's survival and recovery were a beacon of hope and a source of inspiration for many. Her journey from the brink of death back to life is a powerful part of her legacy as an advocate for education and women's rights worldwide. Chapter 9, Recovery and New Beginnings, focuses on her time of recovery in the hospital following the attack. After being flown to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham, UK, Malala began a long and challenging journey to recovery. The hospital was well equipped to deal with her injuries, having a strong reputation for treating wounded soldiers. This was a new and unfamiliar environment for Malala, far away from her home in Swat Valley, Pakistan. The medical team at the hospital worked diligently to treat Malala's injuries. She had suffered a gunshot wound to the head, which was extremely serious. The doctors performed several surgeries to repair the damage. They removed part of her skull to relieve pressure on her brain and repaired her damaged facial nerve. Despite the severity of her injuries, Malala showed incredible resilience. Each day brought small but significant improvements. One of the most significant moments in Malala's recovery was when she regained consciousness. This was a critical step, as there were concerns about potential brain damage due to the nature of her injuries. To the relief of her family and the medical team, Malala woke up with her cognitive abilities intact. She could recognize her family and remembered events from before the attack. This was a major milestone in her recovery and brought hope to everyone involved in her care. However, the road to recovery was not easy. Malala faced numerous challenges. She had to relearn basic physical activities like sitting up, standing, and walking. She also had difficulty speaking due to the trauma her facial nerve had suffered. The support of the hospital staff and her family played a crucial role in her recovery. Her parents and two brothers, who had joined her in the UK, were by her side, providing love and encouragement. Malala's spirit and determination were remarkable. She worked hard with her physiotherapists and speech therapists to regain her strength and abilities. Her progress was a testament to her resilience and the excellent care she received from the medical team. Every small improvement was celebrated as a victory in her journey back to health. During her time in the hospital, Malala received an outpouring of support from around the world. People from different countries sent her messages of hope and encouragement. This global support was a source of strength for Malala and her family. It reminded them that her fight for education and her stand against the Taliban had touched people worldwide. Malala's recovery in the hospital was not just a physical healing process. It was also a time of emotional healing and reflection. Despite the trauma she had experienced, her commitment to her cause remained strong. The hospital became a place where Malala's new life began, a life that would be dedicated to fighting for the right to education for girls all over the world. Her time in the hospital was a period of recovery, strength, and new beginnings, setting the stage for the next chapter of her remarkable journey. Unfolds as she embarks on a new life in England after her recovery. The move to England was a significant change for Malala and her family. They had left behind their home, relatives, and life in Swat Valley, Pakistan, due to the attack on Malala and the continuous threat from the Taliban. Settling in a new country with a different culture, language, and way of life was a challenging yet transformative experience for them. In England, Malala and her family first had to adjust to the basics of living in a new country. Everything was different: the food, the weather, the language, and the customs. Malala, along with her parents and brothers, embarked on a journey of learning and adapting. They learned to navigate the streets of Birmingham, communicate in English more fluently, and understand the local customs. Malala, who had always been a keen learner, adapted quickly, showing an eagerness to embrace her new life. One of the biggest changes for Malala was attending school in England. She joined a local school where she continued her education. Going to a school in England was very different from her experience in Pakistan. The education system, the teaching methods, and the school environment were all new to her. However, Malala was determined to make the most of this opportunity. She worked hard in her studies and gradually made friends with her classmates. Despite her global fame, she wanted to be a regular student and experience normal school life. As Malala adapted to her new life in England, she also continued her work as an advocate for girls' education. Her experience in the attack she survived brought more attention to her cause. She started to use her voice on bigger platforms, advocating for education rights globally. Her new life in England gave her the safety and freedom to continue her activism without the fear of violence. Malala's family also adapted to their new life in England. Her father, who had been an educator and activist in Pakistan, found new ways to contribute to his daughter's cause and support his family in this new environment. The family's strong bond and shared experiences helped them navigate the challenges of their new life. Malala's move to England was not just a change of location. It was the beginning of a new chapter in her life. It was a time of growth, learning, and continued commitment to her cause. In England, Malala had the opportunity to reach a wider audience and bring more attention to the issue of girls' education. Her new life in England was a testament to her resilience and her ability to turn a challenging situation into an opportunity to grow and make a difference. This part of her journey highlights the power of adaptation, the importance of education, and the continuous fight for the rights of girls and women around the world. Chapter 10. The Malala Fund marks a significant milestone in her journey. The establishment of the Malala Fund. After surviving the attack and moving to England, Malala's commitment to education for girls grew even stronger. She and her father, yousafzai, recognized the need for a more organized effort to support this cause globally. This realization led to the creation of the Malala Fund. The Malala Fund was established with the vision of a world where every girl can learn and lead without fear. Its mission is to empower girls through education, helping them to achieve their potential and be agents of positive change in their communities. The fund focuses on ensuring that girls have access to 12 years of free, safe, and quality education. It works towards this goal by advocating for resources and policy changes needed to give all girls a secondary education, investing in local education leaders and programs, and amplifying the voices of girls fighting for change. Setting up the fund was a bold step for Malala. She was still a teenager, yet she was embarking on a global initiative that would tackle one of the world's most pressing issues. The fund was not just about providing education. It was about breaking down the barriers that prevent girls from going to school, such as poverty, war, and discrimination. From the beginning, the Malala Fund received significant support from around the world. People were inspired by Malala's story and wanted to contribute to the cause she was fighting for. The fund attracted donations, partnerships, and global attention, helping it to quickly establish itself as a major force in the fight for girls' education. The creation of the Malala Fund also marked Malala's transition from being a symbol of resistance against the Taliban to a leader in the global movement for education. Through the fund, Malala could reach more girls and communities. She could influence policy and raise awareness on a larger scale. The fund allowed her to take her advocacy to the next level, turning her personal experience into a global campaign for change. The establishment of the Malala Fund is a key chapter in Malala's story. It shows her evolution from a young girl in Swat Valley fighting for her right to education to a global leader working to ensure that all girls have the opportunity to learn and thrive. The fund is a reflection of Malala's belief in the power of education and her commitment to fighting for it around the world. It stands as a testament to her resilience, her vision, and her determination to make a difference in the lives of millions of girls. Through the Malala Fund, Malala's voice and her message continue to resonate globally, inspiring and empowering the next generation of girls to pursue their dreams and break down barriers. Delves into her role as a global advocate for education through the Malala Fund. After establishing the fund, Malala took on the mantle of being a spokesperson and leader in the global movement for girls' education. Her advocacy work expanded beyond Pakistan, reaching communities and policymakers worldwide. Malala's advocacy for education is driven by her belief that education is a fundamental right for every child. She uses her voice and platform to highlight the struggles that millions of girls face in accessing education. These include barriers like poverty, conflict, and discrimination based on gender and social norms. Malala's message is clear and powerful. Education can transform lives, communities, and entire nations. She emphasizes that educating girls not only benefits the individual girl, but has a ripple effect, improving the health, wealth, and overall well-being of societies. One of the key aspects of Malala's global education advocacy involves speaking at international forums. She has addressed audiences at the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, and other global platforms. Her speeches are impactful, often drawing from her personal experiences and those of girls she has met in her travels and work. She speaks not only to highlight the issues, but also to urge world leaders, policymakers, and communities to take concrete action to improve access to education for girls. In addition to speaking engagements, Malala's advocacy involves working with international organizations and governments. The Malala Fund partners with local education advocates and organizations in various countries. These partnerships aim to develop and support programs that remove barriers to girls' education. This includes funding schools, teacher training programs, and initiatives that address specific challenges like child marriage or cultural attitudes towards girls' education. Malala also uses media and public campaigns to spread her message. Through interviews, op-eds, and social media, she reaches a wide audience, raising awareness and support for her cause. Her story has inspired books and documentaries, further amplifying her advocacy efforts. Her work in global education advocacy has not gone unnoticed. Malala has received numerous awards and honors for her commitment to education rights. These accolades have helped bring more attention to the issue and the work of the Malala Fund. Despite her young age, Malala's impact on global education advocacy has been profound. She has inspired a generation of young people to stand up for their rights and the rights of others. Her journey from a girl fighting for her own education in Swat Valley to a global advocate influencing education policy and practices shows the power of resilience, courage, and determination. Malala's continued advocacy for education on a global scale through the Malala Fund is a testament to her unwavering commitment to the cause. Her work is a beacon of hope for millions of girls who are fighting for their right to learn. Malala's story is not just about overcoming adversity, but about using her experience to create a world where every girl can go to school, learn, and reach her full potential. Chapter 11. A Global Icon highlights a monumental moment in her journey, her speech at the United Nations. This event marked her transformation from a young girl advocating for education in Swat Valley to a global icon for girls' education rights. Malala's speech at the UN was not just an opportunity to address world leaders. It was her platform to bring the struggles and hopes of millions of girls to the forefront of the global agenda. On her 16th birthday, July 12, 2013, Malala stood at the United Nations podium, a symbol of resilience and hope. This day was declared by the UN as Malala Day in honor of her courage and advocacy work. Her speech was powerful, articulate, and moving. She spoke not only for herself but on behalf of all girls who were denied their right to education. Malala's words resonated through the halls of the UN and around the world. In her speech, Malala emphasized that education is a fundamental right for every child. She talked about her own experience in Pakistan, where girls faced violence and intimidation for trying to go to school. But more than just recounting her story, Malala used her speech to make a passionate plea for action. She called on world leaders to invest in books, education, and hope, rather than in arms, war, and conflicts. Malala's speech was remarkable for its maturity and wisdom. She spoke of forgiveness, not revenge, against the Taliban who had attacked her. This perspective showcased her incredible strength of character. She stated the extremists were, and they are, afraid of books and pens. The power of education frightens them. Her words underlined the transformative power of education in fighting extremism and promoting peace. Malala also addressed the issue of gender equality in education. She highlighted how educating girls can lead to a more just, peaceful, and prosperous world. She urged the international community to commit to ensuring that every girl receives the opportunity to go to school. The impact of Malala's speech at the UN was profound. It brought global attention to the issue of girls' education, highlighting the barriers that prevent millions of girls from going to school. It also reinforced Malala's position as a leading voice in the campaign for global education rights. Her speech inspired people around the world, from policymakers to young students, to take action and support the cause of education for all. Malala's appearance at the UN was a defining moment in her life and her activism journey. It was a powerful demonstration of how one person's voice could be a catalyst for change on a global scale. Her speech at the United Nations established her not just as a survivor of a brutal attack, but as a global icon, a symbol of the fight against oppression and for the right of every girl to receive an education. Captures her engagements with global leaders and influencers as she becomes a world-renowned advocate for girls' education. After her impactful speech at the United Nations, Malala's stature as a global icon grew, leading to meetings with influential figures worldwide. These engagements were not just ceremonial. They were opportunities for Malala to push her agenda for education rights to the forefront of the global conversation. Malala met with world leaders, including presidents, prime ministers, and monarchs from various countries. In each meeting, she presented her case with the same passion and clarity she had at the UN. She spoke about the need for universal access to education and the barriers that girls face in achieving this goal. Malala's discussions with these leaders were not just symbolic gestures. They were strategic efforts to influence policy and secure commitments for education reform. One of the key aspects of Malala's engagements with these leaders was her ability to connect her personal story to broader issues. She talked about her experiences in Pakistan, but she also highlighted similar challenges faced by girls in other countries. This approach helped her to make a compelling case for why education should be a top priority in global policy agendas. Malala also met with influential figures outside of government, including celebrities, business leaders, and activists. These meetings helped to amplify her message and bring attention to the Malala Fund's work. Celebrities and public figures used their platforms to support Malala's cause, bringing it to a wider audience. Business leaders and philanthropists were encouraged to invest in girls' education, seeing it as not just a moral imperative, but also a smart investment in the future. In her interactions with these global figures, Malala remained true to her mission. Despite her young age, she engaged with these high-profile individuals with confidence and conviction. She was not intimidated by their status. Instead, she saw each meeting as an opportunity to make a real difference in the lives of girls around the world. Malala's engagements with world leaders and influencers also helped to inspire other young people. Seeing a young girl from Swat Valley discussing global issues with some of the world's most powerful people was empowering. It showed that age and background do not limit one's ability to impact the world. Malala became a role model for youth activism, demonstrating that young people can be agents of change. Through her meetings with global leaders and influencers, Malala Yousafzai solidified her status as a global icon in the fight for education. These engagements were crucial in raising awareness about the importance of girls' education and in driving tangible policy changes. Malala's journey from a young girl in a remote part of Pakistan to a global advocate meeting with world leaders is a testament to her extraordinary courage, determination, and the power of education to change the world. Chapter 12. The Nobel Peace Prize. Extraordinary Story is a moment of historical significance. The announcement of her winning the Nobel Peace Prize. This chapter reflects a turning point, not only in Malala's life, but also in the global recognition of the importance of education, especially for girls. The moment Malala learned she had won the Nobel Peace Prize was both surreal and monumental, marking her indelible impact on the world stage. On October 10, 2014, the news broke that Malala Yousafzai, at just 17 years old, had become the youngest ever recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. The announcement was a testament to her courageous advocacy for girls' education under the most daunting circumstances. Malala received this prestigious award alongside Kailash Satyarthi, an Indian children's rights activist, highlighting their joint struggle against the suppression of children and young people and for the right of all children to education. The moment Malala heard about the award, she was in school, attending her chemistry class. The normalcy of her school day juxtaposed with the extraordinary news of the Nobel Peace Prize perfectly encapsulated her journey and her message. Despite becoming a global icon, she was still a student, committed to her education, embodying the very cause she championed. The announcement was made in Oslo, Norway, by the Norwegian Nobel Committee, and quickly the news spread across the globe. The reaction to Malala winning the Nobel Peace Prize was one of widespread admiration and celebration. People around the world who had followed her story from the brutal attack in Swat Valley to her speech at the United Nations saw the award as a fitting recognition of her bravery and her tireless work in advocating for education. The award brought further attention to the issue of girls' education globally and highlighted the power of peaceful protest and resilience. For Malala, winning the Nobel Peace Prize was not just a personal achievement. It was a symbol of hope and a beacon for all those fighting for education and children's rights. In her response to the news, Malala reiterated her commitment to her cause. She recognized the award as an encouragement to continue her fight for every child's right to education. The announcement of the Nobel Peace Prize was a defining moment in Malala's journey. It was a recognition of her bravery, her advocacy, and her impact. The Nobel Peace Prize not only honored Malala's individual efforts, but also underscored the global significance of her campaign for education. This chapter in Malala's story is a powerful reminder of the impact one young person can have and the importance of standing up for what is right, no matter the odds. It is a celebration of the power of education and the enduring spirit of those who fight for it. Delves into the profound significance of her receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. This prestigious award was not just an honor for Malala as an individual. It symbolized a global acknowledgement of the importance of her cause, the fight for girls' education. Winning the Nobel Peace Prize was a momentous milestone that elevated Malala's advocacy work to a new level, giving her a greater platform to champion the rights of children worldwide. The Nobel Peace Prize, awarded to Malala, underscored the critical role education plays in fostering peace and combating extremism. By honoring a young girl who stood up against the Taliban for her right to education, the Nobel Committee highlighted the connection between education and peace. Malala's work, rooted in her own experiences in Pakistan, now gained a universal resonance. The award brought to the forefront the struggles faced by millions of girls around the world who are denied access to education and emphasized that this was not just a regional issue, but a global crisis that required urgent attention and action. For Malala, the Nobel Peace Prize was both an affirmation of her efforts and a call to action. It reinforced her belief that education could be a force for change. The award also brought with it a sense of responsibility. Malala understood that this recognition was not just for her, but for the voiceless and the oppressed. It was for every girl who had fought for her right to go to school, for every child who wanted to learn but couldn't. The Nobel Peace Prize amplified Malala's message, allowing her to reach a wider audience and to influence policymakers and world leaders more effectively. The award also had a symbolic meaning for young people worldwide, especially for girls and those from disadvantaged backgrounds. It showed them that their voices mattered and that they could drive change. Malala, a young girl from a small town in Pakistan who had faced down one of the most feared extremist groups in the world, had been recognized on one of the world's most prestigious platforms. This was a powerful message that one is never too young or too insignificant to impact the world. Furthermore, the Nobel Peace Prize boosted the work of the Malala Fund. It brought attention and resources to the fund, enabling it to expand its reach and impact. The fund's initiatives to ensure girls' access to education received a global spotlight, leading to more partnerships, more projects, and ultimately, more girls getting the education they deserve. In conclusion, the Nobel Peace Prize was a monumental recognition for Malala Yousafzai, not just as a personal achievement, but as a global testament to the power of education and the resilience of the human spirit. It reaffirmed the urgency and importance of her cause and strengthened her resolve to continue her fight for the right of every child to receive a quality education. Malala's receipt of the Nobel Peace Prize is a chapter that goes beyond individual accolades, symbolizing a beacon of hope and change in the global campaign for education and peace. Chapter 13, Education for All, takes us through her inspiring journey of visiting schools around the world. Following her Nobel Peace Prize win, Malala's role as an advocate for education took her to numerous countries where she interacted with students from diverse backgrounds. These visits were more than just symbolic gestures. They were powerful exchanges of ideas and experiences, bridging gaps between different cultures and communities through the common language of education. In each country she visited, Malala met with students in schools, ranging from well-established institutions in big cities to makeshift classrooms in refugee camps. These interactions were eye-opening experiences, not only for the students who met her but also for Malala herself. She listened to their stories, tales of aspirations, struggles, and perseverance. Whether it was a girl in a Kenyan slum fighting to continue her education, or a Syrian refugee in a Jordanian camp clinging to the hope of returning to school, each story added depth to Malala's understanding of the global education crisis. Malala's visits had a profound impact on the students she met. For many of these students, meeting Malala was an encounter with a living symbol of resilience and the power of education. She inspired them to value their education, to dream big, and to stand up for their rights. Her story resonated particularly with girls, many of whom saw her as a role model, a testament to the fact that their circumstances did not define their future. During her travels, Malala also engaged in discussions with teachers and education activists. These conversations highlighted the challenges and barriers in delivering quality education, especially in regions affected by poverty, conflict, and gender discrimination. Malala's presence brought attention to these issues, often sparking local and international support for the schools she visited. Malala's school visits were not just about advocacy. They were also about learning. She gained insights into various educational systems and the diverse challenges students face in accessing education. These experiences enriched her advocacy, enabling her to speak with authority and authenticity on global education issues. Moreover, Malala's travels and interactions with students around the world were a powerful reminder of the universality of the right to education. Her journey transcended borders, highlighting that the desire for learning and the challenges in accessing education are common experiences shared by children worldwide. In conclusion, Chapter 13, Part 1 of Malala's story is a narrative of connection, inspiration, and learning. Her visits to schools across the globe underline the shared struggles and hopes of students, bringing to light the importance of global solidarity in the fight for education for all. Malala's interactions with students are not just fleeting moments. They are part of a larger tapestry of her ongoing work to ensure that every child has the opportunity to learn, grow, and contribute to the world. Focuses on her relentless efforts to influence policy and promote educational change on a global scale. After witnessing firsthand the diverse challenges faced by students across the world, Malala's advocacy took a strategic turn towards effecting policy change. She had understood that for lasting impact, it was crucial to address the root causes of educational inequality at the policy level. Malala, through the Malala Fund and her public platform, began engaging with policymakers, leaders, and influencers to push for systemic changes in education. Her approach was multifaceted, involving direct dialogue with political leaders, participation in global forums, and public campaigning. She utilized her experiences and the stories of the students she met to highlight the urgent need for policy interventions in education. One of Malala's significant contributions has been her ability to bring the issue of girls' education to the forefront of international development discussions. She consistently emphasized that education, especially for girls, is key to solving many global challenges, from poverty reduction to peace building. By presenting compelling data and real-life examples, Malala influenced global development agendas to prioritize education. Her advocacy also focused on increasing funding for education. Malala called on governments, international organizations, and private entities to invest more in education systems, particularly in countries where access to education is limited due to poverty, conflict, or cultural barriers. She highlighted the need for funding not just in building schools, but also in training teachers, providing learning materials, and ensuring safe and inclusive learning environments. In addition to funding, Malala emphasized the importance of quality in education. She advocated for curriculums that are inclusive, relevant, and capable of preparing children for the challenges of the modern world. Malala's efforts contributed to a growing global conversation about educational reforms that encompass not just access, but also quality and relevance of education. Another key aspect of her work has been advocating for policy changes to address specific barriers to girls' education, such as child marriage, cultural attitudes, and lack of sanitary facilities in schools. She used her platform to promote laws and policies that protect girls' rights and ensure they have the opportunity to complete their education. Malala's advocacy work extended to crisis and conflict zones, where education often becomes a casualty. She worked to bring attention to the educational needs of children in these areas, advocating for their right to education despite the challenging circumstances. The impact of Malala's efforts to promote educational change has been significant. She has not only raised awareness, but has also contributed to tangible policy changes in various countries. Her work has inspired a new generation of education advocates and has shown that with passion and perseverance, it is possible to effect change at the highest levels. Chapter 14. Challenges and Criticism. Delves into the challenges and criticisms she faces as a prominent advocate for girls' education. Despite her global recognition and the positive impact of her work, Malala has encountered opposition and criticism from various quarters. These challenges range from cultural and political opposition in her home country to skepticism and scrutiny on the international stage. In Pakistan, Malala's outspoken advocacy for girls' education has been met with resistance from conservative factions. Some critics argue that her views challenge traditional norms and values. There are those who believe that her advocacy for education and women's rights is influenced by Western ideals, and thus not in line with local culture and traditions. This criticism is often amplified by the media and has led to a polarized view of Malala in her own country. Malala has also faced opposition from extremist groups who see her work as a threat to their ideologies. The Taliban, who targeted her in 2012, continue to denounce her efforts. Her prominence and continued advocacy make her a target for these groups, who oppose education for girls and women's empowerment. The threat from such groups remains a constant challenge and concern for Malala and her family's safety. Internationally, while Malala is widely celebrated, she has not been immune to criticism. Some skeptics question the impact of her work, arguing that her approach is too focused on global platforms and not enough on grassroots efforts. Others suggest that her sudden rise to fame and the involvement of international organizations in her campaign have overshadowed local education activists who have been working on the ground for years. Malala has also faced the challenge of navigating her role as a young woman in the global spotlight. As a teenager advocating on world stages, she has had to balance her advocacy work with her personal life and education. The pressure of being a global icon and a regular student has been a unique challenge for Malala, requiring her to juggle multiple responsibilities and expectations. Despite these challenges and criticisms, Malala remains steadfast in her mission. She continues to use her platform to raise awareness about the importance of education for girls and to advocate for change. Her resilience in the face of opposition is a testament to her commitment and belief in her cause. Chapter 14, Part 1 of Malala's story is a reflection of the complexities and difficulties that come with being a global advocate for a cause as critical and sensitive as girls' education. It underscores the fact that change, especially in deeply rooted social issues, often comes with resistance and criticism. Malala's journey through these challenges highlights her courage and determination to continue her fight for education for all, despite the obstacles she faces. Profound exploration of her perseverance and strength in the face of opposition and criticism. Despite the challenges and criticisms outlined in the previous chapter, Malala has consistently demonstrated an unwavering commitment to her cause and an extraordinary ability to stay strong under pressure. Her approach to dealing with opposition is rooted in her deep conviction in the power of education and her belief in peaceful activism. Malala's strength in dealing with opposition is, first and foremost, drawn from her personal experiences. Having survived an attack by the Taliban, she has faced the utmost form of opposition. This experience has only fortified her resolve. She often speaks about the importance of not being silenced by fear. Her ability to turn a personal tragedy into a global campaign for education is a testament to her remarkable resilience and strength. Another key aspect of how Malala deals with opposition is her focus on dialogue and understanding. She believes in the power of communication and education to bridge divides and change minds. Instead of responding to criticism with hostility, Malala often seeks to educate and engage with her critics. She believes that many of the criticisms and opposition she faces stem from misunderstandings or lack of awareness about the importance of education for girls. Malala's approach to staying strong also involves drawing support from her family, especially her father, yousafzai, who has been her mentor and supporter from the beginning. Her family's unwavering belief in her mission strengthens her resolve. They provide a support system that allows her to navigate the complexities of her role as a global advocate. Moreover, Malala gains strength from the support of the global community. The encouragement and solidarity she receives from people around the world, many of whom are girls and young women, inspired by her story, reinforce her commitment to her cause. Knowing that she is not alone in her fight, and that her voice represents millions of girls who are denied an education is a powerful source of motivation for Malala. Additionally, Malala's perseverance is bolstered by her focus on the bigger picture. She understands that change, especially in deeply rooted social issues like education inequality, takes time and persistent effort. She remains patient and focused, celebrating small victories and learning from setbacks. In summary, Chapter 14, Part 2 of Malala's story is a narrative of remarkable strength and unwavering perseverance. It showcases how Malala, despite facing significant opposition and criticism, continues to champion the cause of education with resilience, understanding, and a focus on peaceful dialogue. Her journey is a powerful reminder of the strength that comes from conviction and the impact one individual's unwavering commitment can have in the face of adversity. Malala's story is not just about the challenges she faces, but about how she rises above them with grace and determination, continuing to inspire and lead in the global fight for education. Chapter 15, Legacy and Impact, explores the profound influence she has had in inspiring young people around the world. Her journey from a young girl in a small town in Pakistan to a global advocate for education has resonated deeply with youth, motivating them to engage in social causes and stand up for their rights. Malala's story is particularly inspiring to young people because it demonstrates that age is not a barrier to making a significant impact. At a very young age, she stood up against the Taliban, fighting for her right to education. This brave stand and her subsequent work shows young people that they have a voice and that their actions can lead to meaningful change. Her story is a testament to the power of youth advocacy and the impact it can have on the world. Furthermore, Malala's resilience in the face of adversity is a powerful example for young people. Having survived a life-threatening attack and overcoming numerous challenges, her perseverance is a source of inspiration. It teaches young people the value of courage and determination in overcoming obstacles. Her ability to turn a tragic experience into a force for positive change is a lesson in turning adversity into strength. Malala's commitment to education and her belief in its power to transform lives also resonate with young people. She highlights education as a tool for empowerment and a pathway to achieving one's dreams. By prioritizing her own education while advocating for others, Malala sets an example of the importance of learning and personal development. Her message encourages young people to value and pursue their education, even in the face of difficulties. Additionally, Malala's global activism has shown young people the importance of global citizenship. Her work transcends national boundaries, addressing universal issues and connecting with a diverse audience. This global perspective encourages young people to think beyond their immediate environment and understand their role in a connected world. Malala also inspires young people through her humility and relatability. Despite her global recognition, she remains grounded and focused on her mission. She shares her personal struggles and successes, making her story relatable to young people. Her down-to-earth demeanor and approachability make her a role model whom young people can look up to and see a bit of themselves in.